Okay, y'all. All right, surface area is one of those tricky things, okay? Because you're looking for the area of the outside shapes. So there are formulas for surface area, okay? But a lot of times, like if you had to do this on like ACT or something, you're not going to remember those crazy formulas. So a lot of times people will just find the area of the flat shapes and then add it all together. Okay. So like if we look at this first one, you have a rectangular prism. But what you also have is like two like front back pieces that are a rectangle. Okay, well that would be like an 8 by 5. There's two of those. Okay, then you have two of, we'll call the sides, which would be a 8 by 3. Okay, hey. Oh, for me? Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. How are you? Good. Okay, and then we also have the top and bottom. So two, I'm going to just call them tops, but it'd be top and bottom. That would be a 5 by 3. So what you could do is just find each of the sides, add them up, and that would give you the surface area, because we're just looking for like top, bottom, this side, and the sides we can't see. Okay, so there's 6 different sides to this figure. And so that's why I said like 2 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those. So what is 8 times 5? 40. What's 2 of them? If we have 40, we're going to actually have 80. Okay, and this would be yards squared because we're doing area, not volume. What's 8 times 3? 24. What's 24 times 2? So you've got 48 yards squared. And then what's 5 times 3? What's 15 times 2? That's 30. So all together, the surface area is going to be 158 yards squared. So that's just kind of the simple way of doing it. There is a formula for this. I don't actually know the formula. Did anybody look up the formula? What is it? Length times height. Did you have to do 2 of the other ones or just the first one?
It's like everything else after that is.
Oh, I gotcha. So you do all of that first and then multiply by 2. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's going to work. That'd be perfect. All right. What about number 2? You could do it the same way that I just did and break it into pieces. The base of this one is going to be a square. Okay, so how do we find the area of a square? Just length times width, or if it's a square, you could always do like sides squared. Let me make sure this has got sound. Okay, good. So I'm going to just do length times width because that's what we're more familiar with. So that's 14 times 14. What's 14 times 14? What? 196. Okay, so that's inches squared. That's just the base. Now, how many triangles are you going to have? 4, because you're going to have a triangle on each of these sides. So here's your first one. Then there's going to be one there, one there, one there. So you're going to have 4 triangles because your base has 4 sides. Okay, our base has 4 sides, so we've got 4 flaps coming together to make that. Now, how do you find the area of a triangle? Yeah, base times height divided by 2, 1/2 base times height, whatever you want to do. Okay, so I've got to do that times 4. So the base of our triangle is what? 14. The height of our triangle is 25. Then we're going to divide that by 2. So what's 14 times 25 divided by 2? It's a lot. 175. Okay, so 175. And then we have to multiply that times 4. So what's 4 times 175? What is it? 700 on the money. So then we take that 700 and we add it to the base, which is 196. So 196 plus 700 gives us a total surface area of 896 inches squared. Now again, I'm sure there's a formula for that you could use to get that. All right, now with a cylinder, if you're going to do it the way that I've been doing, you have to kind of like mentally unfold that cylinder. So if you unfold that cylinder, what shape is in the middle of the 2 circles on the end? It's a rectangle or square. It's probably going to be more of a rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to switch pages. Everybody got all of that? If you're virtual and you're watching back, you can press pause. I am going to take the 2 circles. So we've got 2 circles, top and bottom. And that is going to be for the circle. How do you find the area of a circle? Pi r squared. So what's the radius of our circle? 9. So what's pi times 9 squared? 81 times 3.14. Help me. 160. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's the circle. Now we need to multiply that times 2. So what's it going to be for both circles? 320.28. So that's just for the circles, top and bottom. Now, if we unroll that, you are going to have a rectangle. So here's the thing, though. You know it's going to be 15, okay, across. But in order, or this is going to be 15. Whoa. But in order to find this, you're going to need what? From y'all? From pi times 9 squared? I'm not doing the math. I'm letting y'all do the math. So pi times 9 squared. Yeah, okay, so this needs to be, okay, so that's going to be 254.5. Cool, thank you for getting this right. That's okay. Times 2, so 508.9. Okay, all good. Thank you. Okay, now back to this rectangle. You know it's going to be 15 across, but how are you going to get this long piece? It's connected to the circle. All the way around it has to connect to that circle. What's the outside of the circle? You got to find the circumference of the circle, because the circumference is going to be the length of your rectangle. So how do you find the circumference? Isn't it pi times diameter, or 2 pi r? Y'all are so giggly. What are y'all so giggly about? We'll use the radius since we have the radius, which is 9. So 2 times pi times 9. which is 56.5. So that's going to be this measurement here. 56.5. Hey, I realize that y'all are like, don't care about this, but we're still doing it. So buckle up, okay? So that gives you this measurement, because if we had a can, it's formed by a rectangle, okay? It's got a circle on the top and the bottom. So if you unfold it, this is going to be the circumference, because this is what forms the circle. The distance around the circle is the circumference. So that's how we get that measurement. They gave us this measurement as 15. So now to find the area of our rectangle, we just have to do length times width. So what is 56.5 times 15? 847.5. So we've got the rectangle, we've got the circles. What do we need to do with both of those? Add them together. So 508.9 plus 847.5, what is it? 1,356.4 centimeters squared, because area is squared. All right. Last one is a sphere. I don't know how we would do that one without a formula. I don't think there's any way that we can cut this one apart. Did y'all Google the formula? Somebody Google that for me. What is the surface area of a sphere? Or how to find the surface area of a sphere? Where's Siri when I need her? I need to get one of those Alexa things. Are y'all looking that up for me? Y'all is 4 times pi radius squared. Perfect. So that's super easy, but you would have to remember that. That would be the hard part. So 4 times pi times 6 squared. So what is 4 times pi times 6 squared? What is it? 452 point, I'm just going to say 4 meters squared. So when you're doing surface area, guys, think about like wrapping paper. Okay, it's almost Christmas time. You're looking for how much wrapping paper it's going to take to cover the surface of that. That's surface area. Okay, how much wrapping paper it's going to take. If you're thinking about volume, it would be filling that box with water. Okay, how much water would fit into that, or like packing bubbles or the little things that you have to put in. Volume fills the shape. Surface area wraps the shape in wrapping paper or whatever. Okay. I'm like looking at your face like, oh, I don't know what his face looks like. Okay. Got that. That's the end of our bell ringers. So my goal is for me to, on my planning period, write your bell ringer quiz. Okay, so that's my goal. So if you don't have all 10 of those, you need to get with someone around you. You need to take a picture. You need to do something to make sure you do that. For my virtual students, I think what I'm going to do with them is give it to them on Thursday, and they're going to have a time slot that they have to take it in. So I don't want them to just have endless time to take that. So if you are a virtual student, you also need to get all 10 of those ready to go. And then I will announce the time slot that you can take this on Thursday. Okay? But you guys in class will just take it in class. No big deal. All right? Okay, so we have one lesson left. and it kind of brings everything together. So I'm going to pass out your worksheet. And then we will also go over our homework because I know some of you probably have homework questions. After this test, you guys, after this test, we are going back to our Springboard book. Okay, so starting next week, you need to bring your Springboard book. Thursday. This Thursday, you have your test. Yeah, I like the handouts too, but do it. Is it 10 times colder today? It's on 71 degrees. Are you freezing to death? I put my jacket on because I was cold too. You're welcome. We've got an update for you. We have everyone but you? Oh. I was like, well, that was rude. You're welcome. Okay. All right. So we are going to, first of all, take a look at our homework from yesterday. And actually, I think the easiest way is for me just to have the key for you. So let me print that out real quick. Yes. Can you use my stapler? Sure. It's right there. Oh, you're good. Hey, while I'm waiting on this to print, don't forget to go back and look at your previous quizzes to make sure that you didn't make any spelling mistakes. There's been a couple people that have like put 16 meters. You weren't supposed to put the M, so it marked it wrong. So go and check that stuff to make sure that you didn't make those mistakes. And if you did, all you need to do is let me know, okay? And I will fix that for you. But just know I'm not going in to check 140 students' mistakes on spelling. Do what? Yeah. It's released to you on Edulastic. Also, the study guide is released to you. If you want to get a head start on studying, it's available. It was on yesterday's module, so you should have seen that yesterday, the study guide. For your test tomorrow. All right, we did the first one together, so check your homework for 2 and 3. Questions? I know you are checking your quizzes, but right now we're checking our homework. I'm about to be done with it. It's old stuff. It's released. Graded. Everybody's good with this? Yes, go ahead, Bailey. Y'all, hey, shh, do what? The test is Thursday. This Thursday. Not tomorrow, but the next day. Tomorrow we're doing a study guide. Wednesday's study guide. But I've already released the study guide to you. Like I know some of you have private tutors and people that help you with geometry, so it's there for you. If you want to get a head start studying, it's there for you. Okay? Okay, next page. There's 4 and 5. I'll fix I'll give you your points for spelling. If it's just a spelling mistake, we can fix it. Just hang out after class or send me an email and let me know. Do what? Do I have it on my phone? Oh, I don't know. Hey, y'all are so consumed with those quizzes. I'm going over this homework. This is what your test is on. I'm like almost done with this. So hopefully you've gotten this. What did you want to do? Side, angle, side. So what other side did you know? You'd have to know two sides for that one. I don't think you do. But they would have to say M is the midpoint. So since they didn't tell you M was the midpoint, you can't assume that. Is that what you did too? Yeah. So if they don't say it, you can't assume it. It is true. What you're saying is true because we know they're congruent triangles. So we know those sides are congruent, but there's nothing else that says that. So that's on this page. That deals with the angle bisector. Yep. The bisector bisects that and creates two congruent triangles, or two congruent angles. Okay, cool. All right, if you need to look at that later, you're more than welcome to. If you are finding mistakes on your quiz, you just need to email me and let me know, and I will add those points back in. Everything's worth 1 point on the last quiz, and I think the quiz before it was like 0.85 because there was like more than 30 questions, so it wasn't a full point, but almost a full point. So anyways, okay, this is what we're working on today so that we can finish up this unit. Tomorrow we have our study guide, and Thursday you have your test, okay? Now, this is dealing with the CPCTC. Do you remember what that stands for? It's on your reference sheet. Corresponding. We just did check our homework. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So it says, when asked to prove blank are blank, but first you must prove the blank are blank. Let's see what that's supposed to be. Parts are congruent. Okay, so when you're asked to prove that parts are congruent, but first you must prove the triangles are congruent. So what you're doing is no different. You're doing the exact same thing. You still have to prove that the triangles are congruent, but once you prove the triangles are congruent, then you know all of the parts are congruent. So when we get to the point where we're like, okay, they're congruent because of side, side, side. Well, you know all the sides are congruent, but now that you know that they are congruent, you know all the angles are congruent too, okay? So this allows us to go one step further, because if you look at the example number 1, look at your prove statement. It doesn't want you to prove that the triangles are congruent. We're not working on triangles right now. We want to know about the specific angle, okay? They are wanting to know, are these angles congruent? Well, you're not going to be able to tell me that the angles are congruent until you tell me the triangles are congruent. So that's the first thing that we have to start with. Every single time, your first goal is prove that these triangles are congruent. So if I look at the first thing, it tells us AB is congruent to AD. So I'm going to write that, show my marks, start putting in my proof. Okay, so AB is congruent to AD. Then it says BC is congruent to CD. So far we know that 2 of the sides are congruent. What else do we know? That's right, the reflexive. AC is congruent to itself, AC, because of the reflexive property. So what do we know? We know the triangles are congruent. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle ADC. How do we know the triangles are congruent? Side, side, side. So that's all the same. Everything that we just did right there is the same. No different than what you did on your homework or what we've been doing the last several days. But your proof question wants to know that angle BCA is congruent to angle DCA. So BCA is this angle here, and DCA is this angle here. Are those two things congruent? How do you know they're congruent? That's right, CP, CTC. Because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And that's it. That's literally the only thing you're doing to add. Once you prove that the triangles are congruent, then you can prove that their corresponding parts are congruent. And that's all you need to write in. So let's do it again. Number 2. First thing we know is that PS is parallel to QS. So you're already thinking in terms of parallel. That reference sheet is coming to your head. You're thinking about alternate interior angles, corresponding angles. That's what we're thinking about because we know they're parallel. But I'm just going to go ahead and write this in. As given information. And then more given information is that angle QPS is congruent to SRQ. So let me mark those on our actual graph. QPS, that's this angle here. And SRQ, that's this angle here. So those angles are congruent based on it being given information. What else do we know about this situation? Okay, QS equals QS or is congruent to QS. And how do you know that? So that's the reflexive property. So now we have one angle and one side. What else do we need? Or what else can we find? Why did they tell us they're parallel? Alternate interior angles. Who is the alternate interior angles you want to use? Because really you could use either one. So which one do we want to like key in on? SQR, so that's this one down here. So SQR is going to be congruent to who? PSQ. You realize, though, you could have done the other ones too. Like you could have done PQS and RSQ. It doesn't matter. They're both going to be alternate interior angles, and that's your reason. Alternate interior angles. Okay. So now, based on what we know, the triangles are congruent. So triangle Q, P, S. Now this is where you got to be careful. Make sure you do this right. Who is going to be, or what's going to be the correct congruency statement? If I did QPS, I need to do SRQ. Because remember, you have to write those correctly. How do we know that the triangles are congruent? What's our method for knowing that? Angle, angle, side. It's not the included side. So it's angle, angle, side. And our proof was wanting us to prove that segment PQ over here is congruent to RS. How do we know that PQ is congruent to RS? That's right. CP, CT, C. Congruent parts, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Now I want you to flip it over to the other side, to your homework. If you look at this, you have some practice right here. It's just wanting you to determine whether or not you can determine congruency. And then look at number 7. Is this dealing with congruent parts? No. Look at your prove statement. They want you to prove the triangles. So you're going to use SSS, SAS, AAS. Okay? So is number 8. But come over here to number 9. That is looking for an angle. So this is where you're going to use CP, CTC. Okay? So be able to recognize the difference in whether it's just a regular old prove the triangles are congruent versus prove the parts are congruent. Either way, you have to prove triangle congruency first. So I'm going to give you the rest of the class period to work on this homework assignment number 7. You can work with your table mates. You've got about 10 minutes to get as much of this done. Whatever you don't get done is homework. Remember, the study guide is released to you. If you need to work on your study guide tonight to get ahead, go ahead. Your test is on Thursday. Yes, ma'am. Yes, you're doing this whole page. We're going to do it in class tomorrow, some of it, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what you have to submit to get your points. Yeah. Anybody else have grading issues? Y'all come show me and we'll update the grade book. Hey, like, let me end this Zoom meeting, though, real quick, so everybody's not listening to your business. Okay. Hey, anybody in the Zoom have questions for me before I log off? All right, if you do, y'all just send me an email, and I will be happy to help you. Y'all have a good rest of the day.